Hello everybody and welcome to round 3 of the 2023 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here at the popular MotorLand Aragon in Alcañiz, Teruel, Spain for the running of the European Grand Prix. The first ever time that the OC, the top class of course, will race here at Aragon, and the first European Grand Prix since 2016 when the first ever race at Baku held the European Grand Prix title. I'm JW97 and just like the last two races, I'm joined by Dennis Graff.
Yep, hello there. It's nice to be here at the finally new circuit for the top class. It will be exciting what this new circuit brings for the teams and the drivers.
Yeah, indeed. It should hopefully be quite interesting indeed as well. Of course, somebody may know if you've been in the OC for a few seasons, everybody probably knows this, but there's probably a little smile on my face because this is my favourite Spanish track, of course, and I have been hoping that one day it would host a top-class race, of course, whether that be the Spanish Grand Prix or the European Grand Prix, as this is hosting. But either way, it's nice that the top class finally gets a race here, and hopefully we will get on with it. Hopefully very, very soon indeed. And hopefully it should hope for a very good race. I did hear in the test races it wasn't too bad. That it wasn't all too bad, the test race, because I was a little bit worried that maybe one particular corner could create some chaos, but I've heard there's been no such issues whatsoever. The tyres we're using here at Aragon for the first time this season that we've noticed this, because they weren't used during pre-season testing, we are using the soft tyres, and, well, hopefully, unlike the test race, the strategy has all been sorted out for these soft tyres, really, so hopefully it will be a good... Hopefully a good weekend here at Aragon, of course. So we might as well talk about what happened at the last race, of course, at Interlagos, because like at Road America, it was an overtake fest, but probably not as exciting as what the oh god, what was it? Not as exciting as what Road America had in store, but it's still a good race nonetheless. And in the end, of course, it ended up being well. It ended up being Evan Byrne who took victory, and he needed that after what was a frustrating Road America outing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for Byrne, it was the absolute perfect way to bounce back after the disappointment of Road America. And yeah, we have seen Evan Byrne performance like we've seen them quite a few times last season, absolutely dominating everybody and everything. And yeah, of course, now he's moved up into second in the championship.
Yeah, indeed, tied second, of course, with George Rowe, but of course he's ahead of his teammate due to the fact that he's got a victory, and of course, George Roke hasn't yet, so hopefully for Roke's sake he'll be able to try and get a victory on the board. But one team that once again left Interlagos still baffled, it must be said, was Mercedes. Now we know how quick the car is. We've seen how quick it was in testing. They have been the only team so far to get pole position this season. Car, of course, getting pole at Road America, and Jesus Perinen, of course, getting pole at Interlagos. But the thing that has really been striking people, and what people have been noticing, is their reliability has not been up to scratch, really. Even though their car is very quick, reliability has been holding them back, and a lot of people are questioning, is this year's Mercedes unreliable?
Yeah, that's a good question indeed. I mean, we've seen only 3 mechanical problems in the first 2 races for both cars in the races, and yeah, they only have 6 points so far, courtesy of Bonin. But of course, when you start from pole, it's definitely disappointing to walk on the way with 6 points. But yeah, at least Bonin achieved some points with that one-stop strategy. But yeah, car definitely was unlucky with that retirement, and yeah, they will definitely be hoping to bounce back here in Aragon.
Yeah, indeed, and Hazers will definitely want to bounce back here because, of course, this is the first of 2 home races that Hazers Perinen will be racing at this season. Of course, racing here at Aragon this week, and then, of course, in a few races' time, he'll be off to Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix. So 2 home races for the Spaniard. He'll be hoping to make an impression in both of those circuits, really, as Perinen making his way. Speaking of which, whilst we're looking at him, comes out of the final turn. He was down on Kloss in the middle sector, and that will obviously be Carr as well, and goes into third for the moment. 2 tenths off his teammate, and currently Kloss splitting the 2 Mercedes drivers. Must be said, though, on the topic of Bartosz Kloss, a very good outing at Interlagos has proven once again that they've got a very good car underneath them. And, well, the top 3 last time out, Dennis, it's safe to say the same 3 teams that were on the podium at Road America appeared again at Interlagos. But this time around, it was their teammates that took the honours.
Yeah, indeed. So that was very interesting indeed, of course, with the teammates all taking the podiums of the guys who did it in the first race. It's very interesting indeed. As we have 6 different drivers on the podium, 2 races. Yeah, for Klaus, it's been so far great second race because the first race, of course, he was very unlucky after collecting debris after the Jesus Perrin had to park his car. And yeah, that was definitely the race he needed.
Indeed so, and well, a very interesting top three it was indeed, with Kloss and Quar getting onto the podium there. Very strong outings for those two, and Byrne, of course, getting the victory, as we mentioned earlier on at Interlagos as well. Another driver, of course, who was very happy with what happened at Interlagos was Franco Lopez, of course. Toyota, their second race, ended up getting double points with both Lopez and Gomez. And Lopez, well, a great performance for him. He ended up finishing in 6th place ahead of the man who ended up replacing him at Mercedes this season, Jesus Perrin, who, of course, struggled with the one-stop, as we saw.
Yeah, absolutely. For Lopez, it was a very successful Brazilian Grand Prix. Also, Toyota, I think, on one hand, they are definitely very happy with the amount of points they already got. I think they have 11 points for 2 races, and yeah, also Gabriel Gomez on the other hand managed to score points in both races. But yeah, for Lopez, it was very impressive to even finish ahead of Pernin.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, it was a very exciting race from Franco Lopez. Definitely one he'll be happy with, and hopefully something that Toyota can continue to build upon, because they do have a very decent car for their first season, must be said. A solid midfield runner, and hopefully something that that Lopez will be able to hopefully carry forward into future seasons as well, to hopefully get the team towards the front of the field, because that's obviously his aim as to why he came to Toyota in the first place, of course. And we look at Johannes Martins now then in the second Renault, and whilst his teammate Quarg had a good out at Interlagos, it was a home race to forget for Johannes Martins. A podium last time out at Road America, but at Interlagos he ended up finishing outside the points. He just seemed to be very off the pace in that race.
Yeah, he was absolutely off the pace. I mean, it was a big disappointment, a shame for him to have such a difficult race. I mean, it also in qualifying it was not the really best outing with just missing out on Q3, which is I think expected for Renault to be with both cars. But of course, he had another track, and he doesn't have the pressure of the home fans.
Yeah, indeed, but he'll be hoping he can put the misery of his home race behind him and hopefully try and get back onto the pace that we saw from him at Road America. As you see, Bartosz Kloss will be making his way back into the pits this time by. And, well, a race to forget also. Well, talking about people with a race to forget, a team for a race to forget was Lamborghini, of course. A double retirement for them last time out, of course. But Blackwood, of course, got caught up in an incident with Jose Frederick Soutar after he suffered a rear puncture, which caused him to retire. And then, of course, we had Michael Motto retiring from mechanical problems. It really was not the race meeting that Lamborghini were expecting at Interlagos. And, well, you could attribute some of that to their qualifying, because so far this season in qualifying, Lamborghini have looked a little bit off, but in the race they've looked miles better.
Yeah, indeed. For Lamborghini, the qualifying, as you mentioned, were definitely bad. But at World America, of course, we had Blackwood coming into the finish with the P5, but this time it was very unlucky with him being caught up after Joseph Frederick Sutter, of course, spun after suffering that puncture, and of course there was nothing Blackwood could have done to avoid it. But the other side, Mocho also had a very bad race in Interlagos, despite even before his suspension failure.
He did indeed, and it's a race that he'll be wanting to move on from as best as possible. Same with Lamborghini as well. As you see, Valdinger there having a bit of an understeer moment, going out of the left-hander there before approaching what I like to call the bus stop chicane around this track. Even though the profile of it wouldn't signify it's a bus stop, but when you look at it from above, it's obviously a bus stop because there is a cut through to actually make the straight a lot longer than what the back straight is here. Of course, where we're probably going to be seeing most of the overtaking in Dom, and also turn one is also a popular overtaking place around here at Aragon, and even sometimes the beginning of the bus stop chicane as well, as we talked about a little bit earlier on. If you don't mind, Dennis, I need to switch my headphones for a moment because they are starting to die on me, so do bear with.
Right, so at the moment, we got Martins and Yeah, also, what's interesting to see, after 2 races, we still have Laura Zhang as championship leader. She, of course, finished in 5th at Brazil. Yeah, that was enough to keep her in P1 of the standings, which is very great to see after a move from Lamborghini, of course. Yeah, indeed. Look at Ben Swaldinger, who so far had a, I'd say, dreadful start to the season. He's also coming into the pits now. Yeah, speaking of Sauber, his teammate Rahul Patel had a great race. Also in Brazil, finished 8th. Of course, not sure if he was on a one stop or not, but he definitely made it work and got some good points for the Swiss outlet there. Yeah, he will definitely hope for some more points here. It will be very interesting indeed. At home, he's P7. It's also impressive. So with a good lower tongue for
I am
taking
now.
Toyota
I'm now
here.
back, by the way. So yeah, I've got my headphones switched on there, but yeah, might as well talk about Laura Chung since we were just looking at her there. Obviously, finished 5th last time out at Interlagos. It wasn't exactly the best of performances for Laura Chung, but still enough in the end to still keep her lead in the Drivers' Championship. But you do fear that maybe after this race, she might not be leading the championship for much longer.
It's interesting to see what will happen, of course. The Haas is a competitive car. Yeah, who knows what will happen, of course. With the cross qualifying will be definitely a different story and could set with a prediction for tomorrow's race, of course. But yeah, it will either be if she will keep the lead or not. That will be interesting to see.
Indeed, and just want to mention about the next team I want to talk about actually is of course Williams because well it was safe to say that both Felix and Julius left Interlagos being a little bit disappointed really because they were showing some very good pace, but in the end neither of them ended up finishing in the points really. It was one that both Julius and Felix felt a little bit disappointed by.
Yeah, on the one side, of course, they were disappointed to not take anything in terms of points from the race, but of course, on the other side, as Chunk overtakes Martin here. But on the other side, it was very encouraging in terms of pace. There's definitely they've definitely shown that this season's car is much better than last season's car. And yeah, of course, for this round, they will definitely hope to get some points on the board.
Yeah, indeed, and they'll be hoping to do that as well, of course, because obviously they currently sit in 10th for the constructors with 2 points at the moment to their name. Obviously, we have seen this car is obviously a lot better than what it was last season, so in theory they should be a little bit more higher than 10th. So they'll be hoping they can pick up some points here at Aragon. This week, really. So that's pretty much that, really. As speaking of Williams, we are currently looking at Julius Anderson, who's just approaching the end of the first sector now. Then as he just rounds the right-left chicane on this racetrack now then. And my next team I want to talk about, of course, is McLaren, of course. So obviously in Road America, of course, they had a very strong outing of 4th and 6th. Obviously at Interlagos it was kind of back to reality really, but they still managed to scrape a point with Kimishima de Rosa. But for Joseph Willows it was a disastrous race for him. Started in P7 and like what we saw with Jesus Perinen, he just fell backwards in the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, he had absolutely no pace that McLaren on race day, and that was definitely a big contrast to what we saw at World America, as you mentioned. But yeah, for Willows, he will definitely going for some points in this race. It will be interesting to see how the McLaren will perform over this race meeting. Yeah, but on the other side, Rossa was, as you mentioned, able to grab a point, which was how the race gone, which was actually quite a good result for him.
Indeed, it was, and definitely for De Rosa, he added another point to McLaren. They still currently lie 4th in the Constructors' Championship, but of course they lost 3rd place, obviously, to to Renault, of course, last time out, thanks to that podium that Roman Quad got, and obviously. Maybe starting to fall back a little bit now in the constructors, but still a very encouraging start for McLaren, much better than what it was last season when he had all those reliability problems. So anyway, that's pretty much them talked about. Next thing, we might as well talk about Aston Martin because, well, we mentioned a little bit earlier on that José Frederic Souto obviously retired last time out with a puncher. Of course, the two rookies that got points in the first race of the season at Road America both retired from that incident, really. And, well, it was just not a very good weekend for Aston Martin, must be said. No points at all, and they are considered to be the slowest car on the grid. And it did feel like maybe in that race that maybe it was starting to show the effects of that.
Yep, it definitely did. I mean, as we also close for the lockup, but yeah, this Aston Martin car of the season is, as I said, clearly the slowest. Or well, it was expected that it would be even slower than it is, so they are still more competitive than we thought. But of course, with the two rookies, that of course consider the season as a learning year, like the same what Haas did in real life in 2021. Then it will be interesting to see as we now have Toto overtaking Sazonov or not. Yeah, it will be interesting to see how they do here.
Big lock up there for Chris Chatfield as he approaches into the chicane. They're getting overtaken by a McLaren. We might as well mention Ferrari because, well, it was. Well, we obviously we saw last time out that Andre Videri had some good pace, but in Interlagos they were nowhere. Of course, Chris Chatfield obviously got damage on the first lap. Let's not forget about that. Of course, it was a 4 cars that ended up having damage on the first lap, and he was sadly caught up in it. But the pace of the Ferrari clearly showed because even Videri couldn't do anything with it, and Ferrari, well, as we saw in pre-season testing, were really struggling, and well, it just seemed like the pace of that car just caught up to them at Interlagos.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ferrari probably had the worst race out of all teams. I would say maybe similar with Aston Martin, but yeah, for Ferrari it's definitely a huge downgrade in comparison to the last two seasons. Especially, of course, they're fighting for wins in 2021, and the last season wasn't. It was a bit average, but this season is absolutely terrible. It's no other way to put it. It's terrible.
Yeah, indeed, and well, who knows really? They still currently lie last in the constructors, and they're so far the only team this season that are yet to score points, of course, because even though Mercedes have had a pretty tricky start to the season with their reliability and, of course, strategy issues, they've still ended up getting points on the board last time out in Interlagos, 6 points coming from Jesus Perinen, but they're still the only team to have 0 points this season, and you do fear with this pace of the Ferrari, you do fear that maybe even if they did get some luck, they might not be able to capitalise.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even though if they get the opportunity, like we saw with Federi, I mean, at Road America, Federi looked quick, but of course that was thanks to his two-stop strategy. But then, of course, he died to a mechanical problem. But yeah, things stand. Also, in this practice, they're currently in 17th and 19th. Is not looking good for both of them.
No, definitely not. And you do fear that maybe they could be in for quite a tough session come qualifying, of course. And I don't even think the long straight around here that you could see that goes down to that hairpin is going to help them out too much either. So, yeah, it's kind of a little bit like Malaysia, really. They've got 2 long straights with the rest of the track, mainly comprising of downforce, really. And given that the chassis on that Ferrari, we think, is not very good, because we know that the power of the Ferrari is quite good. We've seen it at Road America. We've also seen how good it is in the back of the Haas, of course, which is why they're able to do so well as well. But it's clear that the chassis and aerodynamic package on that Ferrari is just really holding that team back this season, and arguably it's worse than, and obviously it's gotten worse compared to last season, because they had a similar issue last season where they had a good straight line speed, but the aerodynamic package just wasn't there, and it just seems like once again it is the thing that's holding them back this season, but even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. As said before, even worse than last season. They don't know how many points they had after the first 2 races last season, but yet for Ferrari, it's not looking that good. Let's say it like this.
Yeah, indeed. And, well, it's obviously, we talked about it in preseason testing, that it could be quite a long season for them, but we'll just have to wait and see. With just over 10 minutes to go, then, in this practice session, this is what the leaderboard currently looks like, then, at this stage. It's Roke at the top, with Kloss in second, Perinen is in third, with Carr in fourth, then it is Quark in fifth, with Byrne in sixth, Mocho's in seventh, with Patel in eighth, Chung in ninth, Martins in 10th, followed by Sontag in 11th, Gomez in 12th, Blackwood in 13th, Anderson in 14th, Willows 15th, Valdinger in 16th, with Chatfield 17th, De Rosa 18th, Videri is in 19th, with Lopez in 20th, Sazonov in 21st, and Suto currently 22nd and last, as Anderson meanwhile goes up into 7th position at this stage. So far, the two Toyotas currently outside the top 10. Lopez down in 20th so far in the session. His teammate Gomez up in 13th place at the moment, as we're currently with Gomez right now, as he's currently got two cars right behind him, a McLaren and a Williams right behind. Not sure which McLaren that is that's behind Gomez, but either way, looks like he's holding up a bit of a train at the moment as they make their way down towards this right-left corner now. They kind of like a corkscrew effect, really. I think it's actually called the corkscrew, in fact, from what I remember. It's kind of a mini corkscrew like it is at Laguna Seca, but obviously not as challenging and as steep as what Laguna Seca has, of course. So, yeah, that's that, really. As Anderson now, they're making his way towards that bus stop chicane. He's just overtaken the McLaren there in towards that part of the racetrack now, then. Teammate Sontag currently P12 at the moment as they make their way down through towards the long back straight, where we're probably going to be seeing most of the overtakes being done in this race now. Then there's a few cars in the pit lane: Perrin, Carr, Quark, Byrne, Chatfield, Federi and Lopez. And just to point out as well, this is obviously the first European race of the season, quite early in fact it must be said, but here we are. We are here for the first European race of the season here at Aragon. And, of course, we're off to Baku next. And then we're back into Europe for a bit of a run afterwards. So, yeah, that's pretty much that, really. As, meanwhile, Anderson just making his way towards the first corner. He's actually coming into the pits at the end of this lap. Is the Swedish driver at the moment. It's just as a Ferrari just comes out onto the racetrack. And so that's it, like, really. Can... As Yuri pointing out, maybe in our little chat that we're in, where we and Dennis are, he's mentioned that Williams could be a bit like in real life, where their car could be super good on low downforce tracks. So that could perhaps be the case here with Williams. We'll just have to wait and see. Maybe the Lamborghini. We've seen that it is quite powerful, and it's clearly working well in the back of the Williams at the moment. So maybe that could be the case. We'll just have to wait and see on that, really. As we look at Videri now, then, in the Ferrari, and well, we know that the struggles that Ferrari are going through this season, and Videri, it's fair to say that Videri, his career, I kind of get reminded a little bit like Jean Alesi, really. He moves to the right teams, but just at the wrong time, really. And I feel like this is a case here with Ferrari. Of course, he moved to Aston last season in the hope that that would be a good team, and it ended up going backwards. And now he's joined Ferrari, and they've ended up going backwards. So it just feels like at the moment Videri's look with teams is not really suiting him at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, also, I think when he was in Alfa Romeo, I mean, 2019 it was a great season for them, but 2020 they definitely had a drop off in performance, and yeah, it definitely shows that he is desperate to get to teams which has quite a good of a season prior to that he's joining, but then he unfortunately gets not that good machinery.
Yeah, indeed, and well, here he is again. Really, of course, he could have scored points at Road America had his car not let go on him. But yeah, so far he's just not had the luck when it comes to teams. And we didn't point this out, of course, at the top of the show, but we left obviously last time out at Interlagos wondering what layout of Aragon we would be using. And as you can see, as you've seen throughout this, we are using the Grand Prix layout, of course, with that hairpin at the bottom of the track. Because I mentioned earlier on that there hasn't been any issues raised with the top class cars with this version of Aragon. So hopefully that does stay like that for today, and of course tomorrow when we have the 57 lap race here at the Grand Prix layout. So the MotoGP layout wasn't needed on this occasion. We are just using the normal Grand Prix layout, of course. So that's that, really, as we look at... meanwhile, Lopez has actually improved, but remains in 20th position. So far, kind of struggling at the moment is the three-time world champion. So far, only the two Aston Martins are currently just over a second behind George Rote, really. And Yuri just adding a bit more context onto the cleanness, the test race was actually like you mentioned that it was probably one like the top 5 of the cleanest tracks, surprisingly enough, despite the issues that it's had in previous series, of course, with the likes of DTM and of course you could say to an extent Formula E as well, especially with one particular car. The hairpin was never really an issue for Formula E. It was mainly the bus stop chicane that was a bit of an issue for Formula E and even DTM as well. But it seems that there's been no issues so far for the top class, which is surprising, which makes me think that maybe it's a physics issue really, rather than a track issue, perhaps. Really, maybe that could be the explanation that I've had some speculatory things about with previous tracks that have had issues, but who knows, really? But anyway, as with just over 5 minutes to go now, then, as well as we'll be coming back into the pits this lap, let's do one more little update on what the leaderboard looks like. Roke at the top with Kloss in second, Perrinen in third, with Carr in fourth, Quark is in fifth, with Byrne in sixth, Anderson in seventh, Mocho is in eighth, with Patel in ninth, Chung, the championship leader, down in 10th at the moment, with Martins in 11th, Sontag 12th, Gomez 13th, Blackwood 14th, Willows in 15th, there is Chatfield 16th, Valdinger is in 17th, with DeRosa 18th, Videri 19th, Lopez 20th, Sazonov 21st, and Suto in 22nd and last. And as mentioned, the two Aston Martins currently the only two drivers to be over a second off the man currently at the top, which is George Roke, who's on a 1 minute 24.248. Just saw Lopez there having a little bit of a wiggle coming out of turn 2 there. So yeah, that's pretty much that really. And so we now ride on board with Lopez. He's got two other cars in front of him at the moment. A few cars still in the pit lane as we speak, with just under 4.5 minutes to go in this practice session. And so far, Roke once again looking strong in practice. I have noticed from previous practice sessions that Red Bull have looked pretty strong in practice, but when it comes to qualifying, Mercedes usually turn it up the wick. And maybe we could see that again here at Aragon.
Yeah, I'm thinking Mercedes definitely has the best pace over one lap, but yeah, we're just think to see what will happen this time around, because well, let's not forget Evan Burns currently in P6, so that's also not that good. He's 4.5 tenths off his teammate Rogue, but yeah, qualifying will be definitely interesting, but it will definitely a close battle between Mercedes, Red Bull, and maybe Haas. Let's see.
Yeah, indeed. Maybe Renault at a push as well, because I can see that Quark is currently up in 5th position at this stage, as Chatfield just overtook the Sauber there of, I think that was Rahul Patel going into the bus stop. Or no, I think it was Ben Valdinger, in fact, that he passed, from what I remember. So, yeah, that's that really. Running on board with Lopez, who has another moment going around turn 1 there, so clearly struggling with the balance of that Toyota at the moment. Something he'll definitely want to try and fix before qualifying, that is for sure, as now Lopez making his way around the double left-hander now then on the racetrack before approaching the end of the first sector very soon. As meanwhile, Blackwood goes up into 6th position in the Lamborghini. And so far this season, Blackwood has failed to get out of Q1. He's been knocked out of Q1 in the first 2 races this season, and it's definitely something that he wants to rectify here at Aragon.
It's clearly to be seen that Lamborghini doesn't have a good car in qualifying, but in the race, as definitely seen at Road America, they definitely turned the performance up by a lot. Of course, Blackwood finishing, as mentioned, already in P5, getting 10 points on his debut. But yeah, it will be interesting to see if he manages to get out of Q1 this time.
Yeah, indeed, and I think for Jafari, he'll be praying that he can get out of Q1 this time by, because so far his teammate has had the edge of him in qualifying so far this season, and has got the car through into Q2. But so far, Lamborghini yet to make a Q3 appearance in 2023. Will that change today here at Aragon? We'll have to wait and see, as we have just over 2 minutes to go now in the session. Only Willows and Quark are the only 2 cars in the garage as we speak. All the other 20 cars currently out there on the racetrack at this present moment. That 21 now, because Willows is now the only one in the garage, as now I think we're going to ride on board with the drivers for the remainder of this now then. So Gomez crosses the line, no improvement, he stays where he is. What about Andrei Sazonov? Still remains in 21st position. Andre Videri crosses the line, no improvement for him. Blackwood, no improvement, stays in 6th position. Jesus Perrinen, well, the home favourite here at Aragon, crosses the line, no improvement, as now Felix Sontag crosses the line, he doesn't improve either. Same for Chatfield and same for Valdinger. Martin's just starting his lap very soon. He's right on board with the championship leader Laura Chung, who's currently outside the top 10 at the moment, and also not looking like on an improvement at this stage. Round the right-hander and now into the final turn she will go on this racetrack, as she'll now blast her way down the pit straight, and across the line she will go, and she does not improve. Kirishima DeRosa crosses the line now then, no improvement for him. Julius Anderson across the line, he will go in the Williams now then, and he stays in P8 at the moment, still the only Williams in the top 10 at the moment. Sontag currently 13th at this stage. Michael Mocho crosses the line, no improvement for him. Quarg will start a lap before the end of the session, of course, so have one more flying lap, it must be said. As Kloss now then has got one of the Red Bulls right behind. I can see in the mirrors there, so he's holding up one of the Red Bulls at the moment. As now Kloss rounds the final turn. It's George Roke that he's currently holding up at the moment. As now Bartosz Kloss crosses the line. No improvement for him and no improvement for George Roke either. Suto up on his good personal best and he goes up to 21st, but he's still just over a second behind George Roke. Patel is 4 seconds off. I wonder if he may have been held up or made a mistake. I'm not sure. Car, no improvement for him. Gomez goes back into the pit, so both Toyotas are done for this practice session. Sazonov down the pit straight. He will go now then, as he will now cross the line. No improvement for him. Blackwood across the line, a former teammate of Sazonov's in BTCC, but he didn't improve on that occasion. Chatfield getting held up there by a Williams. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, and now we have 7 and 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0, and the checker flag is out. That is the end of the session there, as the last car across the line was Chris Chatfield on that occasion. Martins improves to go up into 8th position. Meanwhile, Kirishima DeRosa down the pit straight. He will go now then in the McLaren. He crosses the line, no improvement, stays where he is. As now we look at Quarg. I think Mocho's coming back into the pits. He is, so we now look at Quarg, who's up on his personal best. He's currently in P5 at the moment, is the Frenchman, as he now makes his way down towards the hairpin on the racetrack now then. So he'll flip the car in through the hairpin now then. He will go, as now flicking it in through the penultimate turn, and now into the final corner goes Roman Quarg in the Renault. Where's he going to place himself? Down the pit straight, and Quarg across the line. He will go, and he goes into 4th, gets in front of Amar Khan on that occasion. Kloss, no improvement, he stays in 2nd place. Joseph Frederick Suto crosses the line, no improvement for him. Rahul Patel, he's now going to come across the line in the Sauber, no improvement for him. Amar Khan, no improvement, as we look at Sazonov now then, he just rounds the final 2 turns on the racetrack now then, as he now makes his way onto the pit straight. Sazonov across the line. He goes, no improvement. Blackwood goes in. As Chatfield, has he just overtaken someone? In fact, because there was a car that was ahead. So I think it's actually Valdinger that's going to be last across the line, because he looks like he's re-overtook him on the racetrack there. So Chatfield across the line. He will go, and now we wait for Valdinger to cross the line, which he does, and both of them don't improve. And that is practice done with as a result there. And as a result, it is George Roke who finishes top, with Kloss in 2nd and Perinen completing your top 3. So, yeah, once again, Red Bull looking good in practice, but you do think that maybe Mercedes will turn it up in qualifying?
Yeah, definitely. Red Bull definitely with Rogue looked quite strong, but we will see if they can keep up the performance for qualifying. Let's see. That will be very exciting indeed.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we're just going to take a brief pause while Jiri sorts everything out for qualifying. But in the meantime, guys, you can let us know your prediction on who you believe will be eliminated in the first part of qualifying. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to prepare the tweet for Twitter for practice. So apologies if I go silent for a moment. So stick around, guys, because qualifying is coming up very, very shortly.
Yep, indeed. For me, it's time to get a drink.
Okay, I'm back, and the tweet is now up on Twitter, of course, and so hopefully it should be quite an interesting qualifying. Of course, the first ever time that the top class will have a qualifying session here at Aragon, so it should be interesting indeed. And we did see that traffic could be a thing around here as well, especially we also noticed as well that if you overtake down at the hairpin, there's also a good chance that you could get re-overtaken into the first corner. So traffic could be a big thing, especially around that second part of the lap, Dennis.
Yeah, absolutely. With the first lap, it's expected to go not that much with traffic, but as you said, the second one with some being delayed and some not. There definitely will be some traffic, and maybe slipstream could be a thing on the long back straight.
Yeah, indeed, and well, we could also see some slipstreaming being used at that final bit of the track as well, down the long straight and also down the pit lane, the pit straight as well. So that could be something to keep an eye on there, really, as we just wait now for qualifying to get underway, of course. And of course, for anybody who is unfamiliar with the top class, of course, we do have the three-part knockout format like in real life, of course. And obviously 6 get eliminated in the first session, 6 get eliminated in the second session, and then we have a top 10 shootout to decide who takes pole position for tomorrow's race, of course. And for anybody wondering how many laps Aragon is going to be tomorrow, it will be 57 laps. So basically the same route as what Sakir is. So 57 laps for tomorrow's European Grand Prix here at Aragon, and hopefully it should be an exciting 57 laps as well. So yeah, fingers crossed that hopefully it will be a fascinating race indeed, as we're about to get underway for qualifying, and it's going to be bone dry for qualifying, no rain expected whatsoever, as we're about to get underway for Q1. So I might as well ask you, Dennis, who do you believe will be eliminated in the first part of qualifying?
I think the eliminations will be both Aston Martins, I think that's quite clear. Then both Ferraris, and let's say one Sauber and one Lamborghini.
Okay, I'm going to say both Aston Martins, both Ferraris. I'm also going to say a Sauber, but I'm also going to say a Toyota because Lopez looked a little bit, didn't look very comfortable in that practice session, and I think a Toyota could actually get eliminated. I do think that Blackwood will actually get his first Q2 appearance this season, but we will have to wait and see on that as we wait for the first car to go out onto the racetrack. Luckily, the camera is actually facing towards the pit lane, actually, the outboard camera, so that is very good indeed, so we don't have to stay on board the drivers on this occasion. As the first car coming out onto the racetrack, that looks like a Red Bull, and it is a Red Bull. It's George Roke in the Red Bull who's going to be the first to come out onto the racetrack, the man who topped the practice session just a little bit earlier on, as he now goes out onto the racetrack to start preparing for his lap now then. So let's read your guys' predictions in the stream chat whilst we wait for Roke to prepare to start his lap. So James Brickles has said both Astons, both Saubers, a Ferrari and a McLaren. Ra has said both Aston Martins, a Ferrari, a Lamborghini, a Sauber and a Toyota. So that's the prediction that we've got in the stream chat at the moment as the cars make their way out onto the racetrack, as Rope makes his way through this mini corkscrew, as I like to call it, around here. So through the long swooping left-hander he goes before making his way towards the beginning of what is essentially a bus-stop chicane around this racetrack now then, as he flicks the car in for the left-hander, using a bit of curb on the inside. Around the long swooping right-hander we go, using a tad bit of curb on that inside line. Round the right and then into the left, and it takes you back onto this long back straight where we're going to see most of the overtakes being done during the race tomorrow, I am sure of it, and it takes you down towards that heavy braking zone of a hairpin down at the bottom of the racetrack. So down this very long straight we go. Could be a good opportunity for some slipstreaming. Still one car needs to come out onto the track, and now they all have, so luckily for George Roke, he will not get any traffic on his first flying lap, so he'll be hoping he doesn't make a mistake on his first flying lap as he now rounds the final turn, and Roke is about to start his lap here at MotorLand Aragon as he makes his way down towards the first corner on the racetrack, flicking the car in through the first corner, using a lot of curb on the inside and a tad bit on the outside as well. Through turn 2, a flat out corner, and then around turn 3, which is also flat. Through turn 4, which is flat, but you have to get on the brake straight away to brake into turn 5. You have to brake in a straight line, otherwise you could lose it. Of course, in MotoGP, that's where, of course, Taka Nakagami fell off in 2020 after he got pole position. Though he just went around turn 6, through turn 7, a medium speed right-hander, just going around that sausage curb there, approaching the end of the first sector, and it's a 28.006 in that first sector as he goes down through the mini corkscrew there. As more times have come for the first sector. 28.316 in the first sector for Chatfield, a 28.113 for Kloss, a 28.345 for Videri, a 28.421 for Lopez. So Lopez is even down on the two Ferraris at the moment. 28.115 for De Rosa in that first sector. As Rote will approach the end of the middle sector very soon, which is around about here, I think, from what I remember. I think it's just coming out this corner. It is a 55.467 in the middle sector there. What's everybody else's middle sector going to look like on this occasion? A 55.893 for Kloss there, a 57.048 for Chatfield there. In fact, I think that says a 55 there for Kloss. As meanwhile, Rote just comes around the final couple of corners on the racetrack through the final turn and onto the pit straight now. Then goes Rote. What is the benchmark of time going to be as he crosses the line? And it's a 1:22.820. Here comes Bartosz Kloss in the Haas now then as he makes his way onto the pit straight across the line. He will go now then, and he goes into second place. Chatfield goes to third. Makes me think that maybe Kloss overtook Chatfield on that lap as Videri goes into third position. Here comes Lopez across the line, goes into fourth as De Rosa goes into second place. So yeah, I think that does confirm to me that Kloss and Chatfield held each other up there on that lap. P6 for Sazonov. Here comes Valdinger, goes into P5. P3 for Sontag. Evan Byrne, the previous winner, goes 2 tenths quicker than Roke and goes to the top of the timing sheets now then as here comes Suto across the line to go into 8th. Carr goes into 4th. Looks like he got held up there by Suto as the lap was finishing there. Quark across the line goes into 7th. Blackwood goes into 5th. Here comes Jesus Perinin, the home favourite. He now crosses the line now then in the Mercedes to go only 6th with that lap. Mocho across the line, he will go, goes into 9th. Laura Chung across the line, she goes P4 for the championship leader. Here comes Johannes Martins in the Renault. He crosses the line to go only 13th on that first lap. Not a very good lap for Martins. P8 for Rahul Patel. Joseph Willows across the line, goes into P11 as Julius Anderson now crosses the line to go 15th as Gomez crosses the line and goes into P11 there. So some very interesting lap times on the first lap there, with De Rosa currently up in third place for McLaren there. But yeah, not the best first laps for some drivers in particular, really. And Perinin down in 7th, Car in 5th position. But yeah, very interesting. But at the moment, it is currently a Red Bull 1-2 in Q1.
Yeah, so Red Bull is delivering the pace, but it's just Q1, so no need to worry for Mercedes at all. So yeah, at the moment at the drop zone, we have Martins, Waldinger, Suto, Lopez, Sazonov and Chatfield. That's definitely a surprise as Martins in 17th.
Yeah, indeed, Martins there didn't have a very good lap, over a second off of Byrne in the end there then. So, I don't know exactly what happened. I don't know if Martins made a mistake or not on his lap, or he came across some traffic during the course of that lap. But either way, he's got to go out again and try again. Lopez down in the drop zone, and once again, looking like he might be struggling like we saw in practice a little bit earlier on.
Yep, absolutely. It's looking at the moment like that, but of course there's still 12 minutes to go, so for everybody, lots of time to improve. Of course, someone will stay in the pits on the next run.
Did also notice as well that Kloss and Chatfield were holding each other up on their lap, so I do expect maybe a better lap time for both of them, providing they stay away from each other, that is. But yeah, that will also explain why Chatfield, because he was initially, I think, slightly quicker than, I think it was Sazonov, but of course, there's a bit of contact there in the pit lane from the looks of it. It looks like a little bit of a collision that's happened in the pit lane down there, but nothing too serious there. But as I was saying, that kind of explains why Chatfield's a little bit further down, because he's over a second off his teammate, meanwhile, in Videri. And, well, I do remember actually coming out of the first sector, he set the time before Kloss did, so that suggests to me that those two were holding each other up there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely hold up that they both hope will not happen again in the next run, but let's see who exits the pits first for 1-2.
Yeah, indeed. So we have just over 11 minutes to go in this in Q1 as Bartosz Kloss is going out first of all. He's not going to get held up by Chatfield this time as he's actually not wasting any time and going out on the track first of all now. Then currently in P10 is the man who finished second last time out at Interlagos. Obviously got an amazing jump off the line at Interlagos last time to lead the race for a certain portion of the race before Evan Byrne eventually overtook. Although those two were swapping places with each other for a little bit until Byrne finally successfully pulled the move off in the end on Kloss. But definitely a confidence booster after what was a very frustrating Road America as well for Bartosz Kloss.
Yep, indeed. As mentioned in the practice, yeah, Kloss was very unlucky after he struck the debris from Perin's failed car, and yeah, he of course dropped all the way down out of the points. But yeah, of course, the battle last time up between Bird and Klaus was very entertaining to watch, and yeah, for both in the end, a very satisfying race result. And yeah, hopefully Klaus can pick up on that one here as well.
Yeah, indeed, and hopefully he won't have any traffic this time by, unlike on his first flying lap where he got held up by Chris Chatfield. So there are still a few cars in the pit lane at the moment, so we'll just have to wait and see. Of course, one car usually gets left behind on the second run, so I'll have to wait and see. And the looks of it, of course, it will not be a driver that's in the drop zone at the moment that will get left behind on this occasion. We'll have to wait and see who that is. As Klaus starts his second flying lap as he makes his way down towards the first corner on the racetrack, through into turn 1, and around turn 2 he goes. Luckily for him, there isn't any traffic on the pit exit there, so he will get a clean second flying lap this time by. No such problems, just as long as he doesn't make any mistakes whatsoever. As Klaus now then goes through the double left-hander there on the racetrack, through into turn number 6, and around turn 7 he will now go on the racetrack now then, avoiding the sausage curb on the inside as he now approaches the end of the first sector. Let's see what sector 1 has installed, and he's actually 35 thousandths down in the first sector, but I think it was mainly in the in sectors 2 and 3 where the hold up between Klaus and Chatfield really occurred, really. So we'll have to wait and see how sector 2 and 3 it goes in store for Klaus there, as he now makes his way towards the bus stop chicane on the racetrack. Through into the left and right-hander he goes, using quite a lot of curb on the inside through into that left-hander, through the long sweeping right-hander before slowing it down through this right-left chicane before it takes you back onto the back straight on the racetrack, approaching the end of sector 2, and there you go. He's now nearly 2 tenths up on his personal best in the middle sector there, so we'll have to wait to see what his last sector has in store. It was Mocho that got left behind on that occasion, so he's the one that's decided to stay in the pit lane. Klaus's teammate Chung is currently behind him at the moment, so both of them not wasting any time in starting another lap there. So Klaus now then round the final 2 turns on the racetrack goes the Polish driver. He rounds the final turn and onto the pit straight goes Bartosz Klaus, as he will now come across the line now then. Where's he going to go? And he goes up into 7th place, gets in front of Jesus Perinen now then. So what's going on with Laura Chung meanwhile, is for some reason we're still looking at Bartosz Klaus's Haas at this stage now then. I don't know exactly what's going on there. Chung's actually just started a lap, in fact. So, in fact, we've just missed the car that's just started a lap there. I think it was our car that just started a lap, that was on a lap there. No, it was George Roke, in fact. And he's actually up on his personal best. Can he go to the top? Yes, he can by 10th of a second, a 122.4. As Carr goes to second, in fact. Only 100th off of George Roke there. Roman Quag goes only 14th for that time. So the Renault's clearly struggling at the moment. Blackwood, no improvement. Kirishima DeRosa across the line, no improvement for the McLaren driver. Bence Valdinger, no improvement for him. What about the Mercedes that's just behind? That was Perrin, and he goes up into 4th place. What about Martins behind? He goes into 10th place. Here comes Chris Chatfield in the Ferrari, and he goes 20th. He's still in the drop zone at the moment. Sazonov improves but remains in 21st position. 18th for Suto, both Aston Martins still in the drop zone. Same for Lopez despite the improvement. Gomez, no improvement. Byrne, no improvement either. Here comes Andre Videri up on his personal best, goes into 11th place. Pushes Anderson into the drop zone, who's up on his personal best. Meanwhile, goes into 14th, so now pushes Quarg back into the drop zone. So Quarg really struggling at the moment. He's now back into the drop zone. As a result, no improvement for Sontag. He stays in 12th position. Joseph Willows crosses the line, and he stays in 15th place for the time being. Here comes Laura Chung, who's down on her personal best. Currently in 6th place at the moment, is the championship leader. As Chung now then rounds the final turn and onto the pit straight now then will go the Chinese driver. As Chung now crosses the line, no improvement. As Rahul Patel, no improvement for him at this stage now then. Anybody else on a lap? Just having a look around. I don't think so. I think everybody has done their second flying lap. So at the moment it is now Roke at the top, only by 100th ahead of Armar Carr, but Roman Quag appearing to struggle at the moment.
Absolutely. I mean, after the first one it was Martins in P17, now it is Quark in P17. So yeah, Renault's very much struggling here. And also, yeah, it's very close with Carr. Only 100, as I said, behind Roke. And also Kloss set the same time as Blackwood.
He did indeed, but because Blackwood set the time first, it means that he's ahead of Kloss on the leaderboard as things stand. But at least Kloss was able to get an improvement. Not exactly a big improvement that I was expecting, really, to be honest with you. As meanwhile, then, currently in the drop zone, with just over 6 minutes to go, we have Roman Quag, Joseph Frederick Suto, Bence Valdinger, Franco Lopez, Chris Chatfield, and Andrei Sazonov. They are currently in the drop zone as we speak at the moment, as we still wait for a few cars to make their way back into the pit lane now then, before they can prepare for their third flying lap. Both Toyotas are now back in the pit lane now then as we speak. And so that's pretty much that, really, as more cars making their way out, making their way into the pit lane. As in fact, there's a Lamborghini that's coming out onto the racetrack. In fact, not sure which Lamborghini that is that's going out. It's Michael Mocho, who's just on the cusp of the top 16 threshold, so he probably feels that he does need to make an improvement, especially given that his teammate Blackwood is currently up in 7th place.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mocho's not very safe at the moment. He's just 65,000 ahead of Quark, and of course, with Quark having the better car than Mocho, he definitely has to be on the lookout.
Yeah, indeed, as Mocho now then making his way around the right and left-hander now then on this racetrack, as he'll be trying to see if he can improve. Just over a second off, meanwhile, off of George Roke, and still the only man out on the racetrack at the moment, the only driver out on track, I should say, because obviously we do have Laura Chung in the field. As now Mocho just coming around the right-hander, as now... As in fact, a couple of more cars have come out, and in fact, the top 2 at the moment of George Roke and Armar Carr, who are only separated by 10,000ths of a second at this stage. This might be the final runs of Q1. We'll have to wait and see, as we have just over 4.5 minutes to go in this session now then, but we'll have to wait and see. As Mocho now then is going down towards the hairpin now then on this racetrack through the left. And then the final 2 corners then will go the Lamborghini driver as he now rounds the final turn. And onto the pit straight now then will go Michael Mocho as he now starts his next flying lap. Might be the final one. We'll have to wait and see as he now rounds the first corner. Let's see if there's any traffic on the left-hand side. And there is traffic in the form of an Aston Martin in front there. But I think he might just have enough of a gap. But I think he might have to, he might be held up by him a little bit later on. In fact, he's quickly gaining onto the Aston Martin, who's still trying to get up to speed. So it looks like Mocho's lap might be a bit ruined here, and he could be in a little bit of trouble, given that he's down in 16th at the moment.
Yeah, he will definitely shout at his cockpit that his Ed Martin should get out of the way, and yeah, he's down on his personal best, so yeah, that will not be an improvement for Michael Mocho on this lap.
Indeed, unless he can find it back with some slipstream down that back straight. I'll have to wait and see. In fact, he's going to try and overtake the Aston going in towards this bus-stop chicane here, and he's going to do that pretty quickly as he rounds the left and right-hander now then on this racetrack. Only Patel and Chung are currently in the pit lane. One of them is going to get left behind, though, for the final flying lap, it must be said, as we have just done a 3 and 6 yeah, 6 excuse me, as my voice decided to go there, and it is Chung that gets... It is Chung that gets left behind in the pit lane there. Oh, Jesus.
Yes, now Mocho Pro is going through the hairpin, now exited through the final few corners, and we expect with him being 6 tenths off in the middle sector not to improve. Yep, he will be now definitely shaking for...
no improvement there. For Michael Mocho, sorry about that, I had to take a drink. So Sazonov has just started a lap, same with Willows and Suto, and Blackwood just started a lap, same with Anderson, Valdinger. In fact, a lot of cars are just about to start a lap, in fact. Apologies for that voice that went there. As Armar Carr now then making his way in towards the hairpin now then on the racetrack, as he's actually down on his personal best by just over 100th of a second as he now rounds the final 2 turns on the racetrack now then through the final corner and onto the pit straight now then we'll go Armar Carr in the Mercedes. He now crosses the line and he does not improve. He stays where he is for the time being. Roke doesn't improve. Kloss, meanwhile, up on his personal best. Is he now going to come across the line now then? And he goes up into 5th position. Kirishima DeRosa across the line now then. He will go in the McLaren. He crosses the line. No improvement. He stays, where is he? In P6 at the moment in the McLaren. As Quarg has not improved. He's still down in 17th place at the moment. And he's going to be out. So Roman Quarg is out in the first qualifying session. As Perinin doesn't improve. Martins goes into 10th position. Meanwhile, as we now look at Willows, who's down on his personal best in the middle sector now, then as they now round the final 3 corners on this racetrack now then, as Willows is currently in 15th at the moment, so it looks like both McLarens could make it through into the final part of qualifying now then, as Willows rounds the final... Yes, indeed. So now down the pit straight, and Willows across the line he goes, and no improvement. Same for Sazonov. And Suto goes 18th, but he's out of qualifying, not able to improve on that occasion. A bit of a wiggle there for Anderson as Blackwood improves to go into 8th position. Anderson across the line he goes, no improvement. He stays where he is. Valdinger across the line, no improvement for him. As meanwhile Lopez is up and he goes 18th. He's out. So for the second race for the second time in 3 races, Lopez is out in Q1. Chris Chatfield across the line, no improvement. He's out and stays on the back row of the grid. Gomez, no improvement, he stays 13th. Evan Byrne, across the line, he will go. Doesn't improve and stays in 3rd position. Is that everybody done? No, Patel is on a lap in the Sauber now, then, as he makes his way down towards the final 3 corners on the racetrack. So through the left and then into the final 2 turns. We will go on this racetrack now as Patel rounds the final corner and onto the pit straight he goes. Lucky that McLaren didn't hold him up there, because you can get slowed down by the traffic going into the pits, but no improvement. But it shouldn't have been an issue anyway, because he is in 9th position now then, and I think that is qualifying Q1 done with, and as a result of that, we have Rotkar and Byrne as your top 3 as a result, but Roman Quagg, after getting a podium last time out into Lagos, he is out in Q number 1, and he's out by just over a second behind George Root there. A disappointing qualifying for the Renault driver there, and well, a qualifying session to forget for the Frenchman.
Yeah, absolutely. What a shocker this is. And that also shows the I would say that's either one Renault is doing well, or at least what is expected to do, and the other is completely crap. It's definitely inconsistent. But also, Michael Motto is very lucky to get into Q2.
Indeed. So your top 3, of course, were Rotkar and Byrne, and your bottom 6 from this session who have been eliminated are Roman Quagg, Franco Lopez, Jose Federic Suto, Bence Valdinga, Chris Chatfield, and Andrei Sazonov. They are your bottom 6 as a result. So we're just going to take a brief pause while Yuri sorts out Q2. But in the meantime, guys, you can let us know your prediction on who you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to prepare the tweet for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for just a little bit.
Yeah, what a shocker this is. Quark out.
Okay, I am back, and the tweet is now up on Twitter. So we're about to get underway for Q2, so that was a perfect timing there indeed. So we're about to get underway for the second part of qualifying, so I might as well ask you, Dennis, who do you believe will be eliminated in the second part of qualifying?
Yeah, this time I finally did some memories for this, so I think both Lamborghinis will get eliminated, then Ferrari. I'm not 100%. Wait, he is through. Yes, so Ferrari. Then I would say Will Patel, then one McLaren, and Gabriel Gomez.
I am going to say Videri, Patel. I'm also going to say Gomez will get eliminated. I think as well. Williamses will get eliminated. I think they'll both get eliminated, and I think a McLaren will get eliminated. That's my prediction there. As Williams is about to go out onto the racetrack. Speaking of which, who's the first to go out on track? It's Felix Sontag in the Williams. He'll be the first to go out in Q2 now. Then, as he makes his way out of the pit lane now, then in the Lamborghini-powered Williams, and out on the racetrack goes the German veteran. As we now read your predictions in the stream chat. So James Brickles has said that Patel, Gomez, Videri, a Lamborghini, a Williams, and a McLaren will get eliminated. And Ra has said Videri, Gomez, a Lamborghini, Patel, a Williams, and a McLaren, will get eliminated. So that's the predictions there in the stream chat. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out, really. As Sontag now rounds the left-hander now then on the racetrack, as he'll now round the long swooping left-hander on the racetrack now, then just looking around and seeing what's going on the mini-map on the top right of the screen. There are still a few cars making their way out on track, but I think Sontag shouldn't have any issues when it comes to traffic, as he now makes his way around the bus stop chicane on this racetrack now. Then so through the right and left-hander goes the German driver now. Then as he'll now make his way down the long back straight now, then he will go, as we have just over 13 minutes to go in this session now then. And so that's that. Still 14 cars on track. Still 2 more need to make their way out on the racetrack. Make that 1 more now. As now Sontag goes around left-hander, and now all 16 cars are out on track, so Sontag will not have any traffic issues at all as he now rounds the final turn. And Sontag now then is about to start his next flying lap, his first flying lap of Q2, I should say, as now he makes his way down towards the first 2 turns on the racetrack. Through turn 1 and then around the flat-out turn 2, he will go on this racetrack now then before going around turn 3, which is also flat out, turn 4, and then slowing it down a bit for turn 5, breaking in a straight line, of course, to make sure you don't lose the rear end, because it comes at you quite quickly, does turn 5. Round turn 6, as he gets a little bit of an oversteer moment there, and well, he's missed the apex completely going into turn 7, and that is Sontag's lap in the bin there. His first flying lap has gone down the drain as he does a 28.754 in that first sector there, and well, Sontag really, that lap's gone down the drain for him as a result. 28.018 for Chung, a 28.154 for Perinen, a 28.072 for Martins in that first sector, as Sontag now then comes towards the end of the second sector very, very soon now then, as he goes around the right and left-hander now then he goes. And it's a 56.592, so you can see how much that mistake he made going into turn 7 has really cost him on that occasion now. Then as the German driver makes his way down towards the hairpin on the racetrack now, then as Sontag now makes his way around the long swooping left-hander, he goes this hairpin now, then slow the car down as he'll now go around the final 2 turns, flat through the right-hander and then flat through the left-hander as Sontag. Let's see what the benchmark time is going to be for the German. Sontag across the line, it's a 124.019. Here comes Laura Chung in the Haas now, then she comes down the pit straight and across the line will go the championship leader. She crosses the line and goes 1.1 seconds quicker as expected, as Martins goes into second place, 6 tenths off, as meanwhile Perinen now goes into second place himself. Carr now goes to the top of the timing sheets now, then he goes 78 thousandths quicker at this stage now. Then Kirishima DeRosa comes down the pit straight and he goes into 5th position. Meanwhile, P4 for Bartridge Class is Jafari Blackwood across the line and he goes into 5th. Gomez goes into 7th place, made that 8th because Mocho has gone into 5th position. Andre Videri comes across the line, goes into P11. Joseph Willows across the line to go into P6 as we now look at George Roke, who has topped all the sessions so far in the Red Bull, as now Roke makes his way around the left, right and left-hander now, then he will go on this racetrack now then, as George Roke now then comes down the pit straight and across the line. He will go on the racetrack and he goes into 5th position. Not a good lap there for George Roke, I must have said. I was expecting a little bit better. P8 meanwhile goes to Julius Anderson. There's just one more car to cross the line and that's Burning. He goes into 3rd position. So at the moment it is Carr at the top of the timing sheets, but yeah, Sontag will need to go out again after that mistake, Dennis.
Right amount of time to get another flying lap in, but he has to hope that he doesn't make another mistake. But yeah, at the moment, Kiro Schmörliosa definitely, after his good performance in Q1, unfortunately with a not so good lap in Q2 so far.
Yep, indeed, as we now wait for the second flying laps to happen, of course, as we have just under 10 minutes to go in this session now then on the racetrack. As currently in the drop zone then we have Martins, Patel, Gomez, De Rosa, Sontag and Videri. So far the Renaults currently struggling at the moment. Martins, we could even see a chance with both Renaults might not even make it into Q3 here.
Yeah, indeed. So that would be definitely a big disappointment. Yeah, there's still 9.5 minutes time to correct that.
Yeah, indeed, we'll have to wait and see, of course, if he can rectify that. Of course, the man who'll be looking to rectify as well is Sontag after that mistake he made on his first flying lap there. As Gomez is back in the pit lane meanwhile, as he currently finds himself in 13th position at this stage now then, as Gomez gets wheeled back into the garage now then, as we just wait for the next car to go out on track. I imagine it might be Felix Sontag again, but we'll have to wait and see on that, really, as we now wait for the next runs to happen. And it looks like, no, I think there were mechanics just getting ready for somebody to go out onto the racetrack, unless I'm a little bit wrong. No, I think they look like Williams mechanics, in fact, so there might be the time for Sontag to go out on track. What we're seeing, yep, Sontag is going out onto the racetrack. You can just about see the pink Williams there, just making his way out onto the racetrack there. So out on track goes Sontag, and obviously does need to improve after he made that mistake going into turn 7 there. So it obviously lost him quite a lot of time as a result, and he's determined to see if he can try and possibly get both Williamses through into Q3.
Yeah, that would be a great success actually for Williams if they manage to get both cars into Q3. But yeah, for that Sonntag, it definitely has to improve. But I think he could do that. Let's see.
Yeah, indeed, as Sontag now then making his way around the right and left-hander, going around the mini corkscrew, as I like to call it now then, as he now makes his way around the left-hander. Laura Chung has just come out onto the racetrack, so currently 2 cars on track here at Aragon now then, as Sontag now makes his way towards the chicane. Blackwood is also out on the racetrack in the Lamborghini, as he's currently in the cusp of the top 10 threshold. So far, in fact, both Lamborghinis could make it through, in fact, because they're currently in 7th and 10th for the moment, are both Motra and Blackwood. So far, both of them putting on a better performance in qualifying than they have done during this season, of course. So could we see Lamborghini getting into Q3 for the first time this season? We will have to wait and see, of course, as now Sontag makes his way down towards the hairpin now on the racetrack, as there are still some cars still making their way out of the pit lane, as you can see on the mini-map on the top right of your screen. Still a few drivers with the pit indicators on the left-hand side of the timing screen there, as Sontag now then making his way down the pit straight, and he starts his second flying lap now then. Let's see if he has any traffic on this occasion. Through turn 1 he goes, and around turn 2 on the racetrack, and it looks like he's going to be okay. So no traffic for Felix Sontag, but he needs to hope that he can correct his error from the first lap that we saw earlier on at turn 7 there. As now Sontag making his way around the left-hander, through into the flat-out turn 6 he goes before approaching turn 7 on the racetrack now. As he flicks the car in through that right-hander he goes, as Sontag now then making his way down towards the corkscrews. He's 4 tenths up on his personal best. You can see how much time he lost from that mistake. Patel has now just come out onto the racetrack for Sauber now then, as now around that long left-hander goes Sontag as he makes his way towards the bus-stop chicane now then on this racetrack, as Sontag now making his way through the left and then into the right-hander now then. He will go on this racetrack now then, as Sontag now making his way through the right and then into the left-hander now then he'll go. Let's see what the second sector has in store. 3 tenths down the middle sector. So in fact, he lost a little bit of time in that middle sector, did Sontag, but there was no visible error that I saw there from Felix. But at the moment, it looks like he's not going to get himself into the top 10, because as you can see, the top 10 are covered by 6 tenths of a second, and Martins is the first guy to be 7 tenths off of our car. So at the moment, unless he can find something in the last sector, I think, while Sontag, I think, will improve, he's not going to be able to get him himself into the top 10, but we shall see. Sontag now then down the pit straight and across the line he will go, and he goes into 13th, gets himself in front of Gabriel Gomez. As a result there, as Roke starts a lap, Mocho about to start a lap, Bern Patel starting a lap. It looks like Chung has actually been held up by Patel just as he was coming out of the pits there. Chung, I don't think needs to worry too much, because he's currently up in second place at the moment, 78 thousandths off of our car, but we shall wait and see, as Chung will get some slipstream from the Sauber driver, both powered by the Ferrari engine, and no improvement for Chung. She stays in second position. Jafari Blackwood now then coming around the final corners. He's up on his personal best, currently in 10th position. Let's see what the Jamaican driver can do. He crossed the line and goes up into into third. That's a brilliant effort there from Jafari Blackwood to get up into P3 in the Lamborghini. Here comes Kirishima DeRosa, who's down on his personal best at the moment, and he's currently in the drop zone, down in 15th position. His teammate Willow's currently in the top 10 as we speak, as DeRosa crosses the line. No improvement. He stays in 15th place. Bartosz Klos down on his personal best, currently in 6th position at the moment, is the Polish driver. He crosses the line. No improvement. He stays in 6th position, as the Ferrari of Vaderi is up on his personal best, goes only 16th, and still in the drop zone. Willows went up to 7th. No improvement for Car, but improvement for Perinen, so home fans will go happy with that one, as Perinen goes to the top. Martins gets out of the drop zone and moves up into 6th position. Anderson improves and goes into 10th. Pushes Mocho down into the drop zone. Gomez across the line, and he goes into 12th position. Still in the drop zone at the moment is the Toyota driver, as we now look at George Roque, who's down on his personal best. Mocho is behind him on a lap at the moment, as he's just been knocked into the drop zone at the moment. Mocho currently finding himself in the Red Bull sandwich at the moment, going down that long straight there, as now Roque will make his way around the final corner and onto the pit straight now. Then will go the Red Bull driver, as Roque crosses the line now then, and I think he might have made a mistake because he's 2 seconds off. Mocho doesn't improve, but Byrne does. He goes up into 2nd place, and Mocho still in the drop zone as we speak. I think Patel may have got held up there a little bit by Chung going into the pits, and as a result he doesn't improve and stays in 13th position for the time being now then. And is that everybody done with on that occasion? I think it is. So at the moment, Perinen currently at the top, but yeah, a lot of improvements going on that lap, it must be said. But Mocho currently in the drop zone as we speak, as a result of being in that Red Bull sandwich.
It's not looking that good for him at all, because there's not that much time left, but yeah, actually I think that's it for Mocho, to be honest, if he doesn't get another lap in. But what a lap from Jafari Blackwood. In the meantime, he's currently P5.
Good lap for him indeed. He actually got into the top 3, of course, a little bit earlier on, but he's doing a fine job indeed, although his teammate may be an opposite story unless he can get himself back into the pits in time. We'll have to wait and see. I think he's just come out of the bus stop chicane there, so he's just onto the back straight as we speak at the moment. But yeah, Sontag's in the drop zone, and he needs to find an improvement as best as possible if he wants to try and get both Williamses through. But even if he does get into the top 10, it would push Anderson into the drop zone. And speaking of Anderson, he's just had a bit of contact there with Gabriel Gomez going into the pits. But as mentioned there, even if he does try and find a way to get his car through into the top 10, he's going to push his teammate down into the drop zone.
Yeah, that will be very interesting to see how this goes in the end. And yeah, it will be actually interesting to see who will get a lap in the end.
In fact, it's not going to be Sontag that's going to be first onto the racetrack. It's going to be Laura Chung in the Haas that's going to go out first onto the racetrack. First of all, she's currently in 4th position, so that's pretty much that for her. She now makes her way out onto the racetrack now. Then she'll now round the double left-hander here at Aragon. Through the left-hander goes Laura Chung in the Haas, as she will now round the double right-hander. It will be her final flying lap because we have just over 2 minutes to go in this session now then, and they need to get out before the 1:22 mark, otherwise that's their chance for improvement over, especially for the guys who are currently in the drop zone, as Sontag is now out on the racetrack, so he's given himself one more chance to try and get through into the final part of qualifying. Is anybody else going to join him? We'll keep an eye on the left-hand side of the screen now then, where the leaderboard is at this stage, as now Chung rounds the bus stop chicane. Only 2 cars still on the racetrack at this stage, but there is some movement I can see on the mini-map there. Blackwood has just gone out onto the racetrack for Lamborghini. Anyone else in the drop zone going out onto the racetrack? At the moment, it doesn't look like it at the moment, as 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21, and I think that's going to do it. Unless Federic might have just got out in time, but in terms of Mocho, Gomez, Patel, and DeRosa, that's that for them. They are out of qualifying. So Sontag and Federic, maybe Federic have given themselves one more chance. So we just saw Chung there have a wheel coming out the final corner there. But yeah, Sontag and Federic, potentially Federic that is, have given themselves one more chance to try and get through into Q3. So for Anderson, and maybe even Roque as well, because I don't think he got out in time. He's down in 9th position. They've got to pray they've done enough to get through into Q3 here, as Chung is actually coming up to the back of, I think that's a Red Bull in front. I might be wrong. Could be a Sauber. It could be it is a Mercedes. I mean, they both have the same colour scheme, so it's a little bit confusing looking from the rear there, as Chung finds herself 66 thousandths down on her personal best in the first sector, and 86 thousandths down on Perinen in sector 1 there. She now rounds the long, swooping left-hander now then on the racetrack, as she will now make her way towards the bus-stop chicane now then on the racetrack. Chung now then comes around the left and then into the long, swooping right-hander now then. She will go now then as Chung makes her way through towards the right and left-hander now then. She will go as now comes down the back straight and finds a little bit of time, in fact, in the middle sector, but she's still 500s down on her personal best in the middle sector. And in fact, that Mercedes is actually slightly getting away from Chung at this stage as the checker flag is out. That signifies the end of the session now then, as Chung comes around the left, right and left-hander now then. She will go as now around the final turn and onto the pit straight now then. She will go on the racetrack. Chung across the line and no improvement. She stays where she is as Kloss and Byrne and Mocho just getting some mileage, but Mocho is eliminated. But I think Blackwood is going to go through. He is going to go through, so Blackwood makes it into Q3 for the first time in his career, as now Felix Sontag rounds the final 2 turns on the racetrack in the Williams, and he's down on his personal best. So at the moment it doesn't look like the German is going to go through here. Sontag across the line and no improvement. Sontag is out. He stays in 14th position. Martin's just getting some mileage, and the Renault same with Patel. Blackwood is on a lap meanwhile in a Lamborghini, but he doesn't need to improve because he is through into Q3. He is down on his personal best though in the middle sector, as Blackwood now rounds the final 2 turns on the racetrack now then. Through the final turn and onto the pit straight goes Jafari Blackwood now then, as Blackwood now crosses the line and does not improve. What about Videri meanwhile in the Ferrari? Did he make it across the line? I'm not sure. Willows across the line. He will go in the McLaren. He stays in 8th. Videri did make it across the line and he's up on his personal best. So Anderson's got to hope that Videri hasn't done enough here in the Ferrari, as Andre Videri now then comes across the line and he goes 13th. So he does improve, but not enough to get through into the next part of qualifying. So Anderson gets through into Q3, I think for the first time this season, if my memory serves me correct. So Anderson just getting through by the skin of his teeth, and that is Q2 done with Perrin top, Byrne in second and Carr in 3rd position. And your bottom 6 as a result of that, if we just scroll down to the bottom 6, it is Mocho, Gomez, Videri, Patel, Sontag and De Rosa. So they are the bottom 6. So we're just going to take a brief pause while Yuri sorts out Q3 for us. But in the meantime, guys, you can let us know your prediction on who you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's European Grand Prix here at Aragon. But in the meantime, I'm going to mute myself to prepare the tweet for Twitter, so apologies if I go silent for just a little bit. Okay, I am back and got the tweet up on Twitter, so it should be hopefully a very interesting Q3 indeed. We did, obviously, for the first two sessions of practice in Q1, we saw that Rope was quick, and then Perinen, in front of his home fans, getting to the top in Q2. So maybe could we see Mercedes do what we've seen for the past two races and possibly make it 3 out of 3 pole positions?
Yeah, we will see. But of course, they will have stiff competition with that. At least 2 or 3 other drivers. But it will be interesting to see who will take pole in the end.
Indeed, as we're about to get underway for the final part of qualifying here, as we're about to get underway round about now then for the final 15 minutes of qualifying here at Aragon. So I might as well ask you, Dennis, who do you believe will take pole position for tomorrow's European Grand Prix?
Yeah, that's an interesting guess, but I will go a bit bold in terms of how the sessions when they will say that Evan Byrne will pull out a firecracker at the end and will take pole.
I'm also going to go bold, but I'm going to go with Amar Kar for pole position. I think the other Mercedes will get pole instead here at Aragon, but we shall wait and see how the rest of the session progresses, really, as we wait now for the first runs of Q3 to happen here in this final 15 minutes of qualifying here for the first ever top class race here at MotorLand Aragon. As looks like there are mechanics going out. Looks like Julius Anderson's mechanics are getting ready to send him out onto the racetrack now then in the Williams. And he is going to be the first to go out onto the racetrack. Just beats a Red Bull there from the looks of it, as Anderson will be the first to go out onto the racetrack now then here in the Williams, as he now makes his way out of the pit lane now. Then we go, as now going around the right-hander, there goes Julius Anderson in the Williams, as he now rounds the right-hander and now through into the double left-hander now. Then he will go as he prepares to start his first flying lap of Q3, and hoping to put in a good performance here in the Williams as he rounds the right-hander on this racetrack. Just trying to have a look in the pit lane to see what's going on here, as it looks like so far then it seems that I don't think Anderson is going to get too much traffic on his first flying lap, as it looks like we're going to be staying outboard with him for the first lap, it seems, as now going around the bus stop chicane now then. We will go on this racetrack now then, as Anderson now will make his way around the right and left-hander now then. He will go as the Swedish driver now then goes down the back straight now then before approaching the hairpin on the racetrack now then. He will go as so far you can see the Red Bull behind, just a little bit behind at the moment as we speak now then. As Anderson now then preparing himself around the left-hander now then he goes, as now in towards the final 2 corners. We will go Anderson around the final corner and onto the pit straight now then. We'll go Julius Anderson in the Williams as he now starts his lap in the Williams now then, as he now goes down towards the first few turns on the racetrack now then. And also starting a lap there was George Rowe. That was the Red Bull that was behind him on the racetrack there on that occasion. So through turns 3 and then into turns 4 and 5, we'll go Anderson now then. Of course, turn 7 was where his teammate locked up in Q number 2. We'll see if that happens to Anderson on this occasion. It doesn't look like it. He's going to keep it tidy going into turn number 7 there, as he'll now approach the end of the first sector now then in the Williams, as he now goes down towards the corkscrew, a 28.277 in the first sector, 28.093 for Roke in sector 1 there, as Anderson rounds the long swooping left-hander he goes before approaching the bus stop chicane on that racetrack. A 28.180 for Kloss there, so Kloss going quicker than Anderson in sector 1, a 28.357 for Willows there, so down on Anderson in sector 1 there is Joseph Willows, as now Anderson will come towards the end of the second sector. Around the left-hander he goes, a 56.222 in that middle sector. No, not exactly the best middle sector for Julius Anderson, it must be said. A 55.607, I think that says, for George Rowe, or 687 that should say, I think, as now Anderson comes towards the final 3 turns on the racetrack. A 55.887 for Kloss, so he's exactly 2 tenths down on Roke in the middle sector, as now Anderson comes around the final corner onto the pit straight, and Anderson crosses the line. What's the benchmark time? A 1:23.595. Here comes George Roke in the Red Bull, and he goes 4 tenths quicker in the Red Bull. Here comes Bargish Kloss in the Haas now then, as he rounds the final turn and onto the pit straight now then he will go, as the Polish driver crosses the line. He goes quicker than Roke. He finds some time in the last sector to go 84 thousandths quicker than George Roke there. P4 for Joseph Willows. Here comes the home favourite, Jesus Perinen now now then as he comes down the pit straight. Can he go to the top? Perrin across the line he goes, and no he can't. He only goes into third on that occasion. Here comes Juventus Martins in the Renault. Comes around the final couple of corners on the racetrack. Goes the Brazilian as he now makes his way onto the pit straight, and Juventus Martins now then comes across the line now then, and he goes into third position. Laura Chung goes quickest now by 0.3 of a second at 1:22.7. Here comes Amar Carr in the Mercedes now then. What can Carr do to Chung? He now comes across the line, and he goes quickest by 0.3 of a second. Evan Byrne now then comes around the final couple of the corners. Can he beat Carr to the top of the timing screen now then? Evan Byrne down the pit straight he goes, and across the line goes the Irishman, and he goes into third position. Jafari Blackwood meanwhile in the Lamborghini, he crosses the line and goes only 10th on that occasion. Slots behind Joseph Willows for the moment, but at the moment it is Amar Carr at the top of the timing screens at this stage. But Perrin, quite a poor lap for him first of all, over a second off his teammate Amar Carr at the moment, and he's at the first of his 2 home races.
Yeah, before Chang said her lap time, I was thinking that the lap times are generally a lot slower than in Q2, and especially in Q1. But then in the end, Amar Carr with a great lap indeed do go over 3.5 cents faster than Chang.
Indeed, and well, a pretty good lap there indeed for Amar Carr at the moment to be 3 tenths quicker than Chung. So currently in the top 10 then, as all the cars make their way back into the pit lane, we have Carr, Chung, Byrne, Kloss, Roke, Martins, Perrin, Anderson, Willows and Blackwood as your top 10 at this stage at the moment. But whether it will stay like that for the remainder of it, we will have to wait and see. I do expect maybe some more improvements to come when we get onto the second laps here at Aragon, as we have just under 9.5 minutes to go in this qualifying session to determine who will take pole position for tomorrow's European Grand Prix, the first European Grand Prix since 2016, of course, as we now wait for the cars to make their way back into the pit lane now then, as Chung gets wheeled back into the garage in the Haas. Currently on the front row at the moment is Laura Chung, and currently quicker than Kloss at the moment by just over 0.4 of a second. So a pretty good first lap there for Laura Chung at the moment, but can she remain on that front row, or can she go a little bit better? We will have to wait and see, of course, as the current championship leader doing pretty well at the moment in this session, as currently Anderson in P8 at the moment in the Williams, and a decent first lap for him at the moment, being up in P8 at the moment.
Absolutely, but I'm definitely sure that we will see a lot of improvements in the next run, which could be the last one actually for some, but let's see how that goes. Pretty exciting for sure.
Yep, indeed. Is Anderson going to go out on track first of all, or is somebody going to beat him to the punch? We'll have to wait and see as my dog commentator decides to come back. It's been a while since you've heard her, but there we go. She has now decided now's the time to bark on the commentary. So that's that really. As now we have just over 8 minutes to go in this session now then, as we wait to see who's going to go out on track next of all. Nobody's really rushing to go out on the track at the moment. Everybody's still remaining in their garages at this stage of qualifying at the moment. As now we've got some movement. It looks like the Williams mechanics are getting ready to send Julius Anderson out there on the racetrack, but it looks like he's getting beaten, in fact, by the Red Bull in front of George Roke. So unlike on the previous occasion, Roke is going to beat him on track first of all in the Red Bull now then, as he looks to try and see if he can find the 7 temps he needs to try and beat Carr at the moment, because of course he topped practice and he topped Q1, and he is determined to try and see if he can get his first pole of 2023 to try and break the mini streak that Mercedes have started this season. As I think Dennis went, I think you kind of went a bit silent there, Dennis. I was trying to.
Yeah, it looks at the moment very good for Mercedes indeed, but let's see if anyone can stop Mercedes from taking the third pole in 3 races.
We shall see, as Roke now comes towards the bus stop chicane now then on the racetrack. Roke comes around the right-hander, in towards the right and left-hander goes the Red Bull drivers. He now makes his way around this left-hander, heading down towards the back straight now then. We will go on this racetrack. As Roke now then goes down towards the hairpin, he will soon go now then on this racetrack, as all 10 cars are now out on track, so Roke shouldn't get any traffic whatsoever when he starts his lap now. Then he needs to find 7 temps somewhere on this lap as Roke comes around the final couple of corners on this racetrack through the final turn and onto the pit straight now then. We'll go George Roke now then, as meanwhile I'll just read your guys' prediction because I forgot to do that in the first lap there. So Ra said Hazers for pole, James has said that Carr will get pole, and I think Blackwood put a prediction down. He put Carr for pole as well. So that's that, as Roach just started his lap now then as he goes through in towards turn number 5. On the racetrack now, then we go in towards the double right-hander. Will go George Roke in the Red Bull now, then just going around the right-hander he goes, as we have just under 6 minutes to go in this session. What Sector 1 have in store? And he's 45 thousandths down on his personal best in Sector 1 at the moment, and 3 tenths down on Carr in Sector 1. So at the moment, he's struggling to match the Mercedes driver going through into Sector 1. Will he be able to find some time in the next 2 sectors, though? We shall wait and see, as the Brit now then makes his way towards the bus-stop chicane now, then through the left, and then into the right-hander now, then he will go on the racetrack now. Then let's see what the middle sector has in store for George Roke as he now rounds towards the end of the second sector, and he's 1/10 down, so he's still losing time even more in that middle sector now. Then as George Roke comes down towards the hairpin, as we can see the Williams and Julius Anderson right behind, and one of the Hassers also right behind as well, as you can see from that very long straight, as we now head towards the final 3 corners on this racetrack now. Then George Roke comes up towards the final couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then through the final turn and onto the pit straight goes George Roke in the Red Bull. Can he improve across the line? I don't think he can, but Roke across the line, no improvement, and he stays in 5th position. Here comes Julius Anderson, who's up on his personal best. Anderson across the line, he will go, and he improves but remains in 8th position. Kloss doesn't improve, he stays in 4th position. Willows across the line in the McLaren, and he stays in 9th. Jesus Perrin across the line, no improvement. He's still over his second behind Armar Carr. Not a good lap for him at the moment. Carr unable to improve, stays on a 1:22.334. Martins across the line, no improvement. He stays in 6th position. Chung also not up on her personal best, meanwhile, in the Hassel. That suggests to me that it was in fact, I don't know what I'm talking about there. But anyway, Chung now then across the line. She will go. No improvement. She stays where she is. Here comes Jafari Blackwood, who's also not on an improvement at the moment, as the Jamaican driver across the line and stays in 10th position for the time being now. Then is anybody else on a lap, or is that it? Yes, there is. In fact, Bernie's up on his personal best. Meanwhile, in the Red Bull now then, as he comes around the final turn and onto the pit straight now, then we'll go the Irishman. Can he beat Carr to the top? Across the line he goes, and no, he can't. He goes up into 3rd position in the Red Bull, so no improvement there. So not able to beat Carr to the top there. So it's still Carr at the top at the moment, with Byrne improving. In fact, he actually stayed in 3rd place. In fact, he didn't actually gain any places on that occasion. But surprisingly, Perrin not able to improve. Still over a second off Carr at this stage. We have just under 3 3/4 minutes to go here in Q3.
Yeah, at the moment it looks very disappointing for the home hero Permanent, but on the other side, Amar Carr, despite not improving on the second run, doesn't need it to, because he is set for pole.
Yeah, indeed, and so far then, as all the cars making their way back in the pits, whether everyone will get one more flying lap in, we'll have to wait and see, of course, as now Rote will get wheeled back into the garage now then for Red Bull, with just under 3.25 minutes to go in this session there. I had to spit my words out a little bit there. It took a little bit of a while for the words to come out of my mouth. But again, like I said, whether all of them will be able to get one more flying lap in, we'll have to wait and see, as Blackwood now makes his way back into the pit lane with just under 3 minutes to go in this session. Byrne just following behind at this stage now then, as the seconds continue to tick down on the clock just above your screen there, as we just now wait and see what the rest of the grid has. Let's see who's going to go out there for one more flying lap. And so far then, it's Carr, Chung, Byrne, Kloss, Roke, Martins, Perrin, and Anderson, Willows and Blackwood that's currently the top 10 at the moment in this qualifying session. We'll have to wait and see if anybody else can find any more improvement as the session ticks on, of course, here at MotorLand Aragon, the second of 3 new venues on the 2023 Top Class calendar. Of course, later on in the season, we'll be heading off to the Jeddah Corniche circuit for the first ever Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So hopefully it will be a very exciting race there later on in the season, of course. But so far, Aragon has been pretty good so far. Hopefully, we'll be in for a good race tomorrow when we race around here for 57 laps. So hopefully, it will be a good race. We have just under 2 minutes to go, and they need to get out before the 1:22 zone, which is what the Red Bull of George Roke is about to do. So he's giving himself one more chance to try and see if he can find the time needed to beat Carr to pole position here at Aragon. As mentioned, they need to get out before the 1:22 zone. Otherwise, that is it then. They will not get another chance to set another lap time in this session now then, as let's see if anybody else is going to join Roke or not. As mentioned, need to get out before the 1 minute 22 zone, otherwise that's it, no more chance to start a lap. There is a couple of cars coming out the pit lane, as I can see there, and that is Carr and Martins, and I think they are going to be the only three, because we passed the 1 minute 22 mark. So yeah, it's only going to be Carr, Roke and Martins that is going to be able to do a lap. Everybody else, that's them done. So Chung will be hoping she's done enough to stay onto the front row, but we'll have to wait and see as Roke now comes around the bus stop chicane now then on this racetrack now then. He'll now approach the right and left-hander now then, so through the right, then through into the left, which before it takes him back onto this very huge back straight, onto the racetrack now then. We will go, as now they make their way towards the final three corners on this racetrack now then, as Roke will do everything he can to try and snatch pole position off of Armar Carr, as now Roke comes around the third to last corner. Through the final two turns goes the Red Bull driver now then into the final corner, and onto the pit straight now then will go George Roke in the Red Bull, as he'll now make his way across the line, and he starts his third and final lap here at Aragon as he goes around turns 1 and 2 on the racetrack. Luckily no traffic for the Red Bull driver, so another clean lap for him indeed, as he now around the flat out turn 3 into turn 4, and then braking straight away for turn 5, comes at you very quickly. That part of the track does, using a lot of curb on the outside before making his way towards the right-hander now. Then he will go on the racetrack, flicks the car in using a lot of curb. Let's see what Sector 1 has in store for George Rose. He approaches the end of Sector 1. He's 1/10 on for his personal best, but he's 88 thousandths down on Carr in the first sector now then. So currently Roke on an improvement as we speak. Let's see what the last two sectors have in store for the Red Bull drivers. He now makes his way down towards the bus stop chicane now then. He'll go on the racetrack now then, so flicking it in through the left and then into the right-hander now then. We will go on this racetrack now then, as Roke now then will go to the right and left-hander, approaching the end of Sector 2 now then. Let's see what Sector 2 has in store. Still down on Carr, but he's 5/10 up on his personal best in that middle sector, so he could get himself onto the front row here, but we shall wait and see. But at the moment he's not going to do anything to pressure Carr at this stage now then. Is now Roke making his way in towards the final three corners on the racetrack now. Then we will go through the penultimate turn and now into the final corner and onto the pit straight now. Then we'll go George Roke in the Red Bull now then, as Roke now then comes across the line and he goes into second place, but not able to beat Carr at the moment. Martins meanwhile is down on his personal best in the Renault. Carr is also on a lap as well, so it's only really one more car that Carr has got to worry about really, and Martins is not up on his personal best at the moment. He's currently in 6th position at the moment, is the Brazilian driver. As now Martins rounds the final corner and onto the pit straight now then will go Joantas Martins. Martins across the line, and he does not improve. He stays where he is. The car doesn't improve, and I think that's that. I think everybody else is just doing some mileage as a result. So it means for the second time this season, it is Armar Carr who will take pole position for tomorrow's European Grand Prix, as me and Dennis will now go silent and allow you to see how Armar Carr took pole position for tomorrow's European Grand Prix. And that is our Armagh car. Took pole position for tomorrow's European Grand Prix. An amazing lap indeed from the British driver. But can he open up his points account for 2023 and finally get some good luck tomorrow? We will have to wait and see. Let's have a look then at the top 10 then before we go, of course. Here is your top 10 then. It is Armagh car who takes pole position for the second time this season with George Rook in second. Laura Chung will start in third with Evan Byrne in fourth. Bartosz Klos is in fifth with Joantis Martins in sixth. Jesus Perrin in a disappointing seventh at his first of 2 home races with Julius Anderson in eighth. Joseph Willers is in ninth, and Jafari Blackwood completes the top 10 for Lamborghini. But overall, Dennis, a very good lap from Armagh car, but will he get the look he needs to finally kick off his 2023 season?
Yeah, that will be the interesting thing to look out for tomorrow, but yeah, great lap from him. Also, one thing I noticed for Evan Byrne, he did that the exact same time in Q3 twice.
Yeah, indeed, and he will stop in 4th place for tomorrow. Very consistent lap there for Evan Byrne. Well, that has been it then, guys, from the qualifying session and the practice session, of course, here at Aragon. I hope you have enjoyed it. A very enjoyable session indeed, and hopefully we'll be in for a very enjoyable first ever race here at Aragon tomorrow. Of course, we're not done with live streams just yet, because coming up in just under an hour and 30 minutes time, specifically 1 hour and 26 minutes time, we will have the F2 race over at Indianapolis for their United States Grand Prix, their first voted track of the season, which sees Michael Clark on pole position. Whether he can get his first ever Formula 2 victory, we will have to wait and see. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it, so thank you all for watching. I'm JW97, he's been Dennis, and we will see you tomorrow at 5 PM BST for the 57 lap European Grand Prix. Till then, take care.
Bye.